Hello all, welcome to another session in this course. As part of this session, I am going to cover the next topic, that is using for each method with arrays. We can use for each method for iterating through all the elements of an array. Apart from using other traditional ways of iterating elements of the arrays, okay, like using for of loop with arrays and all those stuff, we can also use for each method also for iterating each and every element of the array. Okay, how that is possible and all I'm going to cover. But before I get started here with this for each method demonstration with arrays, should have the knowledge of arrow functions. Because in this session I'm going to use arrow functions. Without this knowledge of arrow functions which I have covered in the previous sessions, you'll not be able to understand this session properly. So get the knowledge of these arrow functions from my previous session and then come to this session so that you will understand how to use for each method to iterate through all the elements of this array. So let's get started. So here I have some notes which I'll be using for reference guys. Let me open the notes. There are several methods we can use with arrays, right? I have opened the notes. Meanwhile, I'll go here. There are several methods we can use with arrays. One of such kind of methods we can use with arrays are for each method. Okay, for each is one of the methods we can use with arrays. Okay, it's kind of popular with arrays. Now, how the for each method will work? So, what I will do with the help of this for each method here is inside this for each, I will call a function. Okay. Inside this for each, I'll call a what? Function. For each and every element of the array, I'll be calling the function. How to use the for each with arrays? How to use for each method with arrays? In arrays, lot of elements will be there. If I want to use for each for iterating through all the elements of the arrays, for every element that I want to iterate, I'll call a function which is mentioned inside the for each. And this function that I'm mentioning, that I'm going to mention inside this for each method, I'm going to represent in the form of arrow. Okay, arrow function in the format of arrow functions. You all, if you already have the knowledge of this arrow functions, which I covered in the previous sessions, you'll understand. Okay, the shortcut representation of the functions can be possible with the help of arrow functions. Such kind of arrow functions structure I'm going to provide. Here you can either provide normal function or arrow functions, anything is fine, but I'm going to use arrow functions inside this for each method to iterate through each and every element of the array. For each and every element of the array, this for each method will call this function or arrow function, that mean a number of times. Okay, for this element, arrow function will be called. For another element, arrow function will be called. Another function, the same arrow function will be called. Like that, for each and every element in this array, this arrow function or function will be called by this for each method. Okay. So let's see how we can use this for each method to iterate through all the elements of the array and what else we can use with the for each method and all I'm going to cover in this session. For practical demonstration, I'm going to launch Visual Studio Code. Here, I'll just close this and create a new file. Let's say for each.js. Okay. Just give some random name. That's okay. And here, let me create a array. Let AR is equal to square bracket. I'll give a list of elements here. Let's say 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4, comma 5. Okay. Like this, different elements in the array are there. Now, what I'm going to do here is I want to iterate and print each and every element of this array. For that, I want to take the help of the for each method. How to take the help of the for each method? For taking the help of the for each method, I have to say AR, which is array, dot for each. So inside this for each, I will be creating a, okay, inside this for each, I'll be calling a function. Okay, for each and element of this array, I'm going to call a function. How? I'm going to use this, instead of normal functions, I'm going to use arrow functions inside this for each. Okay, how to use arrow functions? Let's say for each and every element, let's say E stands for element. Okay, E or X, anything you can give. E, like this we generally write, right? Uh, So what we can do here, okay, this arrow function, I'm going to say for each and every element of this thing, I'm going to write like this. For example, mm, console.log e. Okay, console.log e. Like this, I'll write. Okay, for each and every element, I'm going to print this element. Okay, so this function will be called. Okay, this function will be called here. Function will be called here multiple times. Okay, and every time it calls this function, so what will happen? Let's see. Okay, so for reference, I'll also see here whatever the code that I have written for reference. Okay, this what is the thing, right? So for each and every element in this array, I'm going to print it. Let's see what will happen. Since only one statement is there, I don't have to provide curly braces or something here. Okay, curly brace or something is not required. But let's run this and see what is happening. For each dot JS, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 got printed. It's working fine, right? For each and every element in this array, we are calling this function where we are printing that E, that is single parameter, that is nothing but the element of the array. Like this, we have to use for each method. If you know the concept of the arrow functions, you'll understand what I have written here. Okay. So now you will say, I'll just write console.log and then put some separation point here. Now let's say I don't want to print each and every element of the array. Rather, I want to sum all the elements of this array. Okay. How to write the function? How to write this? How to use this for each method? Okay. For each method will help you in iterating through all the elements of this array. But here the logic will differ. How the logic will differ? I'll write the logic like this. E means E or X, whatever you want to write, you can write, guys. A, B, C, D, anything you can write. Okay, I'm writing X here. X is nothing but each and every element of for each and every element of the array. Okay, here X means in this array, for each and every element of this array, what I want to do? I want to calculate something like this. I want to calculate something like this. I just want to say let sum is equal to 0, I'll say. Okay, initial value of the sum is 0. Now I'll say sum plus equal to, that is okay, uh, compound assignment operator, that is sum is equal to sum plus what? X. This each and every element of the array will be added. Okay, so here initial value of the sum is 0. Sum is equal to sum plus X means sum plus X. Sum is 0. 0 plus X is what? 1. The first time in this particular function is called, arrow function is called, the value of the X is 1. So 0 plus 1 is 1. Sum will become 1. And now the for each will call the function again with the second element. X is 2 here. Sum is equal to sum plus X. That is sum is 1 now. Earlier value of the sum is 1. 1 plus 2. That is sum will become 3. Right? Then sum is 3 now. Then sum is equal to sum plus 3 plus 3. Sum will become 6. Okay? 6 plus 4, 10. 10 plus 5, 15. Okay. Now here, if I print the value of sum, okay, after operating here for each and every element of this array and adding all the values to this sum, whose initial value was 0, but after adding all this, the sum will become 15. 15 should be printed here. I'll say clear and then run this code. You see, 15 got printed. Like this, you can use for each method with the arrays. Okay, you can use for each method with the arrays. Inside this for each method, you have to write the function that you need to call for each and every element of this array. And instead of writing a traditional function which will take a lot of lines, I'm writing the arrow function which I have covered in one of the previous session. Okay, if you know how to use arrow function, this line you can understand. This line also you will understand. Okay, fine. So hope guys you understood how to use for each method in JavaScript. So fine, let's not go in depth like this. For each and every element in this array, you can print it, or you can also summing numbers in an array. The same code I have written, right? That is there also here, and many other things are possible, guys. For this point of time, whatever the examples I have given, okay, this one and this one are enough. Okay, this one and this one are enough. How did I show you? How did I practically demonstrate this and explain this for each method with arrays? This much of knowledge, if you can have or understand, okay, if you understand whatever the topic I have explained so far about this for each method with arrays, then you are good to go. Okay, you don't have to think too much. This much is enough. So that's all for this session, guys. See you in the next session. Thank you. Bye bye.